watch this.
How do you show you're all for election integrity? Well, you hold an election audit, a first for the state of Idaho, but one they had planned since before the primary. What's not planned? What counties will get hand counted?
This is a dangerous gene-based shot that is not a vaccine. We cannot scientifically recommend this to anybody. I mean, I am adamant about this. This is the hill I will die on.
This topic is a hill we've been climbing for a while, whether COVID vaccines are safe, and should public health agencies recommend, public health measures.
This isn't the end, this is the beginning, and I hope what it's the beginning of is better serving those who need this shelter.
It's been more than a year of planning and buying and hoping. Interfaith Sanctuary has been given the official green light on their new home, but with some conditions. And by some, we actually mean a lot. So for the last 2 years or so, we've heard a lot about election integrity, even here in Idaho. Despite the fact there has never been any indication of any sort of voter fraud in the Gem State, widespread or otherwise. But here we are, just finished with one of the most highly contested primaries, where a few races were even too close to call even the next day. And Idaho is about to embark on a statewide election audit for the first time in state history. Tonight at 7 o'clock, the Secretary of State's office will use a bingo ball machine to randomly select 8 counties and then ask those counties to turn over their ballots for a hand count audit. Katya Stepovic explains how the process will work.
The ballots may be in, but the work behind the scenes is far from over. Until Idaho's last legislative session, Idaho was one of 9 states in the country that didn't have a statutory audit as a requirement. But starting tonight at 7 o'clock,
we'll be hand counting ballots in each of the randomly selected counties.
The Secretary of State's office will for the first time perform a randomly selected county audit. According to Chad Houck, Chief Deputy Secretary of State, they will be drawing from 3 different groups of counties. The first group of counties with 100,000 registered voters or more, the second drawing from counties with 10 to 20,000 voters, and the last group drawing from counties with less than 20,000 voters, selecting a total of 8 counties to audit.
Now, once we've gotten all of our counties drawn, we're going to take a look at how many ballots are in that county that we could review, because we do have a statistical target that we're trying to hit within each county, roughly 2,100 ballots that we would like to review. In most cases, we'll probably be looking at one of the larger and closer constitutional officers race, which in this case actually happened to be the closest race. It was the Secretary of State race between Dorothy Moon and Phil McGrain.
Once the counties are selected, a team will be sent out to physically retrieve the ballots and begin the hand counting.
Now, we know from history and from just executing these types of procedures in the past that there is some margin of human error, and that we're going to be, by hand counting all of these, the ones probably introducing that human error.
Each team has a team lead, a Secretary of State staff member, a representative from each Republican Party and Democratic Party, representatives who were selected by the parties.
We're going to set thresholds, and those thresholds will generally be around a 0.5% margin of error to say that we're within the confines of what we're looking for. And if you look at 2,100 ballots, that means we're looking to be within 8 to 10.
But the fast-acting audit process will come at a cost.
We do have to move these teams very quickly in Idaho because of the large distances that we have to cover to get them in and out. We're chartering some small aircraft. The state owns some small aircraft as well, so we have to move these teams in and out, in some cases, in and out of 2 counties in a given day. Inevitably, this is costing taxpayers something, yes. There was a $50,000 appropriation given by the state legislature with the passage of the bill in order to bring this into place. We will find out at the tail end of this audit what the actual expenses were.
While Idaho has a great track record of election integrity, auditing is something that has been top of mind for a number of reasons.
Idaho's county officials who run our elections do a phenomenal job, and they at the same time want to know if there's something in their procedures that they can do better. We want to reassure people that the work that they're doing is solid. We also want to know that if something's out of alignment, that we can figure out what that is so that we can get it addressed, get it fixed, and get on the right track.
Okay, Katya, so they're going to draw those 8 counties tonight, but they won't have these answers, or this audit won't be completed tonight.
No, it definitely won't. They're going to draw them tonight, and they have obviously no idea where these counties will be. And as we can imagine, and as we know, Idaho is a big state, so they're going to try and get through this in 3 days. Now, if a county exceeds the margin of error threshold, which as he said is 0.5%, they will have to do a follow-up audit. But as for what that looks like is to be determined. Houck told me there are so many variables to what the situation could look like and what that margin of error will be. They just simply don't have that mapped out yet. But of course, the plan is to not exceed that threshold, right? We hope so.
Yeah, and it's interesting that a majority of these counties use machines to count their ballots. But he said that by doing this audit, we could be introducing that human error into the process.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about that role reversal there. But he even did say, I talked to him a couple weeks ago, that some of these smaller counties don't use these systems. They
Machines?
do it by hand. Yeah, machines. So it's up to the county and the clerk like we talked about. So we could see what happens here. But hopefully, again, small margin of error.
That's what they're going for. All right, thank you very much, Katya.
If anything, we should be recommending against having children be in an experimental trial. There is not an approved vaccine. It is unethical, according to all medical standards, for any medical professional to ask someone to be in their medical trial without fully informed consent.
As you saw by the picture there, that was Dr. Ryan Cole joining the Central District Health Board meeting from London, by the way, last week. In this meeting, they were talking about a couple of COVID-related items. They decided to remove any mention of mask recommendations when it comes to slowing the spread of COVID-19 from their website and in their guidance discussions with schools. Then there was a half-hour discussion on COVID vaccinations that began with CDH Director Russ Duke asking the board, do you want CDH to remain silent on the subject of COVID-19 vaccines for children? Basically, should their nurse practitioners in their clinics not recommend to a parent of, say, a 16-year-old they get the COVID vaccine? Well, you heard what the lone physician appointed to the board last August had to say. Dr. Ryan Cole would recommend against getting it. He's also referred to the COVID vaccine as needle rape, an experiment on humanity, and falsely calling it cancer-causing. Director Duke did remind the board, if they go with remaining silent on this vaccine recommendation, it would be the first time ever in the history of public health a public health department would not follow the advice of the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices. Oh, there was plenty said by the board's most recently appointed members. That would be Dr. Cole and Republican candidate for Idaho Attorney General Raul Labrador. So we wanted to let a recently retired pediatrician, Dr. David Peterman, respond to some of what was said. First, we asked what the COVID vaccine recommendations are right now when it comes to kids.
So currently, the recommendations from 5 and older are for children to have the series, which consists of two doses. The actual amounts are different based on age. And then as of last week, there are boosters, a third dose or booster is being recommended for both the 5 to 11 and the 11 to 18-year-old group.
This recommendation you're talking about comes from the CDC, is that correct?
Yes. So currently the CDC is recommending COVID vaccine, as I described, for both the 5 to 11 age group and the 11 to 18 group.
So these recommendations from the CDC, they don't take these lightly. I mean, they've done these studies, they look at the testing and the trials, but have there been adverse effects? And that was kind of some of the issues that were brought up during this CDH meeting, some of the adverse effects. For example, Raul Labrador said,
we're hearing about heart issues, we're hearing about other things that are at a higher rate than other vaccines. And I think I think those things also need to be presented to the parents. And I don't know that they are.
I think this has been one of the major problems with COVID. And that is, frankly, we've had public officials or officials that do not have facts giving out information. That's not how we make decisions. I don't think any of us want to make decisions based on that. And certainly, as it comes to public health, the United States has a long history, Ada County, Canyon County, the state of Idaho, of following the recommendations of our health departments and our public health officials.
what about these references to the heart issues? Is that a thing?
There are some rare side effects with the vaccines that particularly affect teenage males, in which there can be the rare side effect, of inflammation of the heart. However, the side effect in almost all cases is transient. It goes away. And not only that, rare, if ever, do children ever have to be hospitalized if this occurs. We don't hesitate to immunize our children for chickenpox or measles, or for that matter, pertussis. Every one of the vaccinations that protects from those diseases I just described all have side effects. And yet we accept those rare side effects because we know it protects our children. And I might also add, I'm not sure I can think of a vaccine that has been studied to such a degree as the COVID vaccine. And on top of that, up till this point, across the world, millions upon millions upon millions of doses of the COVID vaccine have been given to children and have been tolerated extremely well and are very effective. Those of us who are pediatricians, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the CDC, the FDA, on and on and on and on. There are plenty of officials and authorized groups who have said the COVID vaccine is safe for children.
Okay, well, how about this from a pathologist then?
The shot enhances the opportunity now to get disease. It doesn't prevent it. To Raul's point, we don't know the long-term effects. This is an experimental shot, not an approved shot. This is dangerous to our children that survive this virus. This is a dangerous gene-based shot that is not a vaccine. We cannot scientifically recommend this to anybody. I mean, I am adamant about this. This is the hill I will die on. The children are a no-go with this shot.
Let me start by saying, I don't know the qualifications of who you've just referenced. It's my understanding that particular individual is a pathologist. And I'm not familiar that there's any training of pathologists which involves treating children. I'm not interested in responding to information that's incorrect. I think that's the mistake we've made with COVID up till now. What we need to give to parents, which is what I spent 40 years doing, is give them the best information we have. And we do have good information.
He did say, all those like the American Academy of Pediatrics and all that, said they get money from Pfizer, that's why they recommend it. And that Pfizer funds these studies that shows that they're effective.
I have been a member of the American Academy of Pediatrics for over 40 years. The American Academy of Pediatrics has been in existence for, I believe, 80 to 90 years. There is no other group in the world that is more respected for its integrity and support of children. That's shameful to make that statement. That's just shameful.
Well, speaking of funding, like we mentioned yesterday, Dr. Ryan Cole is currently on his anti-COVID-19 vaccine world tour, spending the weekend in London. Then he's off to, I believe, Florida, followed by Texas, in case you wanted to follow the money. As to how this disease has affected kids, Dr. Peterman told us 4.8 million Americans between the ages of 5 and 11 have gotten COVID since this pandemic began. 4,000 of those have been hospitalized because of it. 200 have died from it. He told us of those admitted to the hospital with COVID, 87% were not vaccinated, and there have been 18 million doses of the vaccine given to children. Now, other than offering a few unfounded anecdotes during the discussion, like nurses pressuring parents to get their kids vaccinated against COVID, or that trope that always gets brought out that school nurses are vaccinating students without parent permission, Mr. Labrador did make a motion to table the discussion until they can get more information. So no decision was made on whether the CDH would continue to recommend COVID vaccines for kids. And yes, a year and a half after this vaccine was introduced, we are still having these same discussions filled with misleading and false information. And it appears, well, they're going to just continue because both Labrador and Dr. Cole are mere months into their 5-year appointment to the CDH. Well, just about a month ago, Boise City Council voted 4-2 to approve an appeal by Interfaith Sanctuary. They asked City Council to approve their conditional use permit for their proposed shelter site on State Street in Boise after it was denied by the Planning and Zoning Committee back in January. Though City Council did approve their permit, they did so with more than 24 conditions. The idea is to make sure the shelter doesn't adversely impact other businesses and neighbors in the area. Big talking point during the public meetings held over the last several months. Today, City Council met again to go over and approve those conditions. There's just a few of them. About 205 beds is what they're allowed to have. A perimeter screen around the building that is at least 8 feet tall. The shelter must be open and staffed 24/7. However, evening check-in for overnight guests will only take place that is between 5 and 7 p.m. No sleeping or camping outside the building. There must be separate intake processes and physical spaces for families with kids and adult-only households. There must be a separate outdoor space for families as well. Not only do these have to be met, but a few other things have to happen before they can officially open. Like they have to complete the construction on, well, everything. The warming room, the kitchen, landscaping, the outdoor improvements. And only then will they be able to get their occupancy permit. There is the potential to modify or add conditions within the first 6 months. City Council then adopted this along with the same vote that passed the appeal 44-2.
This is designed to ensure that the neighborhood, in fact, does not suffer undue harm, undue burden from this decision. And that will depend on ensuring that these conditions are upheld and upheld fully.
And I feel that we had to do everything we possibly could to make sure that folks are adequately cared for, certainly having the basic needs of having shelter. I can't think of another issue where we have spent quite this much time making sure that we were looking at every possible option and giving the community so much opportunity to give input, to truly, really give this the consideration that it needed.
So the conditional use permit approval is official, but what's next? Well, neighbors still have 10 days to file a reconsideration to the City Council, and before any remodels can happen, Interfaith still needs to go through the regular facility approval processes with planning and development. Interfaith says everything should go according to plan, and it still will be more than a year from now before they are up and running. For the 4th time this year, the Board of Idaho's largest school district will welcome a new member, but one who isn't necessarily new to school board meetings. Open public debate. It's what we encourage here on the 208. So now's the time to encourage you to join the 208 conversation. Here's our number, 208-321-5614. You can text us, you can call us, leave us a voicemail with your questions or comments about the 208. Either way, be sure to include your name and the hashtag, you guessed it, the 208. That way we can give you credit when we share yours during the show. Well, saying she wanted someone who was most involved with West Ada, trustee Angie Redford recommended David Benetti to fill the vacant Zone 4 seat on the West Ada School Board. That was followed by a 3-1 vote of approval. Most involved with West Ada is certainly one way to describe David Benetti. He is a West Ada parent from Eagle and the man who formed the mask optional group known as Smile West Ada during the 2020-2021 school year. That's the group with members wearing canary yellow T-shirts at seemingly all those school board meetings where COVID protocols were discussed. Well, Benetti was a frequent speaker at those meetings, and by November of this school year, the district did eventually phase out mask mandates. Last night, trustees asked Benetti how he would work with the board if he was on the opposite side of the majority, and how he would communicate with community members who also may not agree.
I believe strongly that good people can disagree on important issues. And when it comes to the issue of communication, it's both on the people that you agree with, but I think it's also more important to the people with whom you disagree, because that gives you the opportunity to learn. I like to actually say, if you don't have anything bad to say, don't say anything at all. Because if you're just going to get people that have, say, good things and tend to be sycophantic, then there's nothing that you can learn. There's nothing that you can grow.
Trustee Renee Azuna is the longest serving board member. She was sworn in back in 2016. She was the lone no vote last night. Benetti will be sworn in at a later meeting. And this appointment is because Rusty Kofelt resigned from the West Ada School Board last month, making it the fourth board appointment this year. Hottest day of the year so far coming up on Thursday. But remember back in April when Bogus Basin reopened for just one day, thanks to a massive mid-spring storm that brought more than 19 inches of snow to the Boise Mountains, more snow than the mountain saw in all of February and March combined. Well, Silver Mountain in North Idaho, they're planning to reopen this weekend. And for those of you playing along at home, yes, this weekend would be the unofficial start of summer, Memorial Day weekend, and they're still staying open for skiing. Silver Mountain closed once this year, just once, back on April 24th, but they're going to reopen, as we said, for one day, well, more than one day, Saturday to Monday, 8:30 to 2:30. 2 chairlifts are going to be open, and you can ski for $49, but you got to buy those tickets at the window. Fun fact, they will be one of only 8 ski resorts in the entire country still open on Memorial Day. Their bike park, by the way, That was scheduled to open for the summer this weekend. Well, they're going to officially open that next weekend, maybe. Our final moments of the show, Tammy sending in this message. How long will honest Idahoans allow dishonest fearmongers to participate in the public discussion? Cole and Labrador are simply not being honest, she says. This one from Randy in Boise. Thank you, Brian. It's sick, disgusting, and unbelievable that so many people in Idaho are willing to accept health district vaccine lies and deceit. Facts and evidence, vaccination works, says Randy. We've got a couple other text messages today asking us if we're going to talk about or comment on the shooting that took place today in Texas. Honestly, I don't know what we could say about that hasn't already been said. I guess the better question might be, what do our Congressmen Russ Fulcher and Mike Simpson, Senators Mike Crapo and Jim Risch have to say about it? So far, nothing. We'll see you tomorrow.